Yo, what is up, gamers? It's Sebastian coming to a brand new video, and this is sort of a bit different than my usual content, but doing the car journey towards the regional that I ended up topping, and the deck profile is on my channel, so subscribe, smile, just real quick, get out of the way. But doing that, I was with a friend who wasn't like familiar with the meta so much, and I noticed him like he was reading through my cards to like see what Tri-Brigade Lyrilusc did. And I realized, oh, that's like the best way to learn a deck, right? Is to just like read all the cards, just understand the basic, what's the deck trying to achieve. And I feel like if you know like all that stuff, you should be well suited enough in order to play against the deck when you see it at an actual event. And so I came up with this sort of idea where what if I just did like something similar but put it on YouTube? Revolutionary, I know. So the first deck is going to be Tri-Brigade Lyrilusc. As it currently stands, it's quite simply the best deck right now, and it's like on the cheaper side. You see a lot, like especially in England, I've noticed a lot of people play Tri-Brigade Lyrilusc. The regional I went to, everyone I was talking to was like, "Oh, I played against like 10,000 Tri-Lyrilusc, like super popular deck apparently, and it's the best deck, so it makes sense." So you're probably going to see this a lot, and especially in the upcoming Dual YCS as well, which, by the way, that's December 11th and 12th. Just for anyone who's not aware yet. But with a deck like this, in the format, like I said, it may be a bit scary if you don't know how to play against the deck that well. Especially when you will have to see the deck quite a bit. And so this video is sort of just to go over all the basic cards, like all the standard cards, all the cards that you should see or you might see. And sort of just important information. I'll also go over like certain rulings that you should know and certain tips. So if you're here to learn Tri-Brigade Lyrilusc, this video is also for you. As sort of the best way to learn how to play against a deck would be to learn how to play the deck. So it's like both like the same. So this video is going to be helpful to you either way, as I also go over like tips so that you know like what to avoid if your opponent is trying to set it up, or like rulings that you will definitely need to know, otherwise you may get cheated even accidentally, or I guess like illegally cheat. How do you do cheating without intent? Whatever that word is, that may happen to you if you are unaware of the rulings yourself. And so there's more information out there, never a bad thing. So firstly, I'm going to give you a brief summary of each of the relevant cards and what they do. If you don't want to see like the whole PowerPoint presentation on what each card does, because I'm just going to quickly go over each card first. There'll be timestamps down in the description, and YouTube will do their special chapter thing. So feel free to skip ahead, and then after you finish skipping ahead, just cut back to the start of the video and watch it all again so I get the ad revenue. But anyways, firstly is a Cobalt Sparrow, which is on special summon, you add a level 1 winged beast from your deck to your hand. Quite simple. And then if you use it as an Xyz material for wind Xyz, that Xyz monster cannot be targeted by the opponent. Very important to remember. Next up, Turquoise Warbler. If you control no monsters, you can special summon it. And then if it's special summoned from the hand, I should have put it in the PowerPoint, but it has to be summoned from the hand. You can special summon a Lyrilusc monster from your hand or your grave. Next is Sapphire Photo, which if you control any winged beast monster, you can special summon this card and any level 1 winged beast from a hand. You summon both from hand. And then when it is used as an Xyz material for a wind Xyz, you can target a Lyrilusc monster in your grave and attach it to the Xyz monster. Next up is Bell Canary. It's simple, you can just target a Lyrilusc monster. So if it's in your hand, you can target a Lyrilusc monster in your grave. Special summon both, and then you get locked into only Xyz for the rest of the turn. But if it's used as an Xyz material for wind Xyz, the Xyz monster gains 200 attack and it cannot change control. Next up, Celestine Wagtail, which is when it's special summon, you add a Lyrilusc Battle Trap card. And then if it's in your grave, you can target a Lyrilusc Xyz you control to attach this card to it. Next up, Bird's Call. You can add to hand or send to grave any Lyrilusc monster, And then you can special summon a Lyrilusc monster from your hand if it has a different name to the one you added from deck or sent to grave. Now onto the Etsy's for Lyrilusc, we have a Recital Sterling, which when it is Etsy summoned, you can target any face-up monster on the field and make it gain 300 attack per material. Detach one material to add any level 1 win beast, and any battle damage you take is inflicted to your opponent's life points instead. Now we have Assemble Nightingale. Honestly, my favorite Lyrilusc Etsy's. This card is so broken. But considering its threat, it gains 200 attack for each material it has. It can attack directly. It can attack as many times as it has materials. If it has 0 materials, it can attack once. And then it has a quick effect to detach a material so that you take no battle damage. And your Lyrilusc monsters cannot be destroyed by battle or card effects. Next up, the new card, Ensemble Robin. Gains 500 attack for each material. Fucking power creep, unreal. But also, each time your opponent special summons a monster, you can target one of those monsters and return it to hand. Not once per turn. And then if this card is sent to the graveyard from anywhere, including such as by Crusadia Maximus, you can target one Lyrilusc monster in your graveyard and add it to hand. It has to be sent by your opponent's card foe. Now onto the Tri-Brigade, we have Fractal, which can send itself from hand or field. Remember, sending it from field is very important for some lines. To send any level 3 or lower Tri-type, as I call it, from deck to grave. So a Tri-type is a Beast, Beast Warrior, or Winged Beast. Quite simple. You can banish any number of Tri-types from grave to spell summon a Tri-type Link monster from your extra deck whose Link rating is equal to the amount of Tri-types banished for this effect. The other main deck Tri-Brigade monsters will have this effect as well, so this will be the only time I read that out. But Nerfowl's unique effect is if it's sent to the grave, you can add a Tri-Brigade monster from deck to hand. Kits is if you can send any Tri-Brigade card from deck to the grave. And then Chaos is if it's in your hand, you can discard a Tri-type from your hand to special summon this card. Now we have Ferajit. I think my webcam is blocking the name, but cry about it. I couldn't find a better play. I should have probably thought about where I was putting my webcam as I was making this. But anyways, you can special summon any level 4 lower Tri-type from hand. And then if it's sent to the grave, you can draw a card and put one to the bottom of your deck. This also counts if it's sent from your extra deck, for example, by Maximus. Next up is Shureg. When this card or any Tri-type is special summoned to your field, you can banish any card on the field. And then if it's sent to the grave, you can add to hand any Tri-type whose level is equal to or lower than the amount of Tri-types you have banished. Next up, a trap card, Tri-Brigade Earth. You can target a Link monster, not a Tri-type, any Link monster, to special summon a Tri-type from hand or grave, such as if you do Apex Avian to negate, it returns to hand, and then you can Oath summon the Avian back by targeting any of the Link monsters that's not a Winged Beast. If you control one of each Tri-type, now this is the more important effect, you can banish this card from your grave to target an opponent's face-up spell trap card, and then it's negated until the end of turn. This is very good for like Darkwood and no more, droplets, etc. Next up, there's some miscellaneous cards. We have Misfire Apex Avian. This is the more common one because Rin statues are kind of, I think the best word is redundant when we have Ensemble Robin. But Misfire Apex Avian is this: if an effect is activated, you can negate it by returning a Misfire monster from field to your hand. Barrier Statue of the Stormwind, never player can spell summon unless it's a wind monster, which is like, you have Ensemble Robin, so that's kind of pointless. Utopic Draco Fuchsia, this is new in King's Court, so I feel it's relevant to go over it. Cannot be destroyed by battle or card effects. It can be targeted though, just bear that in mind. You can't destroy it, but you can target it. And when your opponent activates a monster effect, you can detach one material to negate that monster effect. And then if that monster was activated on the field and it's still on the field after you negate it, you get to take control of it. If you can change control, it is mandatory, however, which means if all your monster zones are full and your opponent activates a monster effect on the field, Agent Warrior's Earth, Double Dragonauts, gains 500 attack, so it's actually 1600 attack, very important to keep in mind. And then it has a quick effect. You can send any card from your hand or field to the grave to target an opponent's face-up card and bounce it. Symbolic Bird of Sovereignty. Any winged beast that this card points to cannot be targeted. Also, Symbol can't be targeted, so it's just a 2/4 untargetable body that during the end phase can special summon any winged beast from your deck, as long as its level is equal to or lower than the amount of unused spell trap zones on the field, which also includes your opponents. So say you have 2 spells set, you have 3 unused spell and trap zones. If your opponent has 0 sets, they have 5 unused spell and trap zones. 5 plus 3 is 8, which means you'll be able to summon any winged beast from your deck that's level 8 or lower. Such as a Pesavian, for example. Next up, trap card. Harpy's Feather Storm. If you control winged beast, you can activate it to negate all monster effects your opponent activates this turn. Whew! Sheesh! Had to let that one out. I'm sorry, I had to. Now, onto the important warnings to know. These are very, very important. This is extremely important stuff. So with Cobalt Barrel and Sapphire's effects to give a Wind at Seas monster specific effects, these effects are only gained when you use them as a material for the summon of a Wind at Seas. If you were, for example, to use Sapphire Swallow's material effect to attach a Cobalt Spiral from Grave to Recital Sterling, then Recital Sterling would not gain Cobalt effect to have protection from targeting, because it was an Etsy summon with Cobalt. Cobalt was only attached to it. On the flip side, if you do detach, let's say for example you use Cobalt Spiral to Etsy summon a Recital Sterling, and then you detach the Cobalt Spiral, your Recital Sterling will still keep the fact that it's immune to targeting, which means that sort of you have to remember what you summon the Etsy's with and not what's currently as a material. So that's very important to keep in mind whether or not you're playing against the deck or you're playing the deck yourself. If you Etsy summon a Recital Sterling with Cobalt, it's target immune forever. If you don't Etsy summon a Recital Sterling with Cobalt Spiral, it will not gain the target protection even if you attach it later. Also worth noting that being able to give your Wind at Seas these effects is not once per turn. So let's say, for example, you use 2 Sapphire Swallows to summon a Recital Sterling or Assembled Nightingale. You can activate both Sapphire Swallows effects to attach 2 Lyrilusc monsters from your grave. This also works more than once per turn. So if you were to use, let's say you use Sapphire Swallow's effect already on Recital Sterling, and then you summon another Sapphire Swallow and make an Assembled Nightingale, you would then be able to activate the effect again to attach a Lyrilusc monster from your grave. On the topic of the Lyrilusc at Seas, On the topic of the Lyrilusc at Seas, there are a few important things to know about them too, such as Recital Sterling being able to boost the attack and defense of any monster on the field, including the opponents. This is something to watch out for, as Recital boosting an opponent's monster leads to very easy OTK setup. For example, if you control a monster with 400 attack or defense, then double Recital boost plus a 6 material assembled is an OTK. I'm pretty sure that's an OTK. I would have to do the maths on that, but I'm pretty sure 5 map with Barrel with 2 Recitals against a 400 attack monster is OTK. So there's something you have to keep in mind, that the Recital's attack game is not a blessing, it's a curse. Unfortunate. Talking about effect Talking of what effect? Yeah, so after they give you the attack boost, because the Recital can attack into it and make you take that damage. Now, talking of that effect, it's worth noting that it is only applied if the Recital Sterling is Etsy summoned, meaning if it was summoned from the grave, such as by Bell Canary's effect, it will not inflict the damage you take to the opponent. If Recital Sterling was flipped face down or banished by the effect of Farther, which returns it at the end phase, it will still be able to do the equal battle damage to your opponent. Now, it's because a monster that is flipped face down or temporarily banished does not forget where it came from. you must never forget where you came from. It's all about the destination, not the journey, or something. Anyways, so Book of Moon does not stop the equal battle damage. So just bear that in mind. Let's say you're playing through Underreach, that's going to be relevant because you guys love your Book of Moon. The last effect also doesn't need you to actually take any battle damage for it to inflict that damage to your opponent. It's like if you use Assembled Nightingale to make it so you take no battle damage, you can crash a Recital Sterling into a Blue Eyes. You take 0 damage, but the Blue Eyes controller takes 3,000 damage from that. That's very unfair, like, in my personal opinion, but the wealthy gets wealthier. That's the society. But, yeah, so just bear in mind that Assembled Nightingale with Recital is able to allow the Recital to attack practically for free by dealing all that damage to the opponent. This is similar, there's like the new Majesty Hyperion that has a similar effect. If you use that with Sanctuary in the Sky, then it's the same thing, right? So that's where the ruling comes from. You can look it up on the database. But, trust me, bro. Next up, important information to know, part 2, because you guys can't see due to my bots. But Recital Sterling's effect to boost an attack defense of a monster is permanent and will remain even if you later negate the Recital Sterling or it's removed from the field. Also, as mentioned previously, Assembled Nightingale does prevent you from taking battle damage, but that battle damage isn't just from Lyrilusc monsters. Let's say you control a volcanic rat, and your opponent has a Blue Eyes White Dragon. It brings down the whole fucking cavalry onto this small rat. The rat obviously dies. Well, no shit, fucking got nuked. But you take 0 damage from that if Assembled Nightingale's effect is applied. So basically you just can't die. Like, Assembled Nightingale says you don't die this turn. Good card. And just one last thing to note. If something does prevent you from adding a card from deck to hand, such as Draw and Lockbird, then you can still activate Lyrilusc Bird Cool. You might be thinking, why would I do that? Well, it has the effect to special summon a Lyrilusc from your hand. So if you want to trigger a Lyrilusc monster from your hand, such as maybe Warbler to summon another monster from your grave to go into Assembled, you can activate Bird Cool under draw because it allows you to send a Lyrilusc from deck to grave. You don't have to add to hand. So if you get drawed and you have like Warbler in hand, you can do Bird Cool, send Sapphire Swallow to grave to special summon the Warbler from hand. There's something to bear in mind. Now, for the people here that's interested in learning how to beat Tri-Brigade Lyrilusc, don't worry, I got you covered. Here's all the cards that you should probably... here's like all the cards you can play against the board that you should probably keep in mind. Bearing in mind, some of these range from being terrible to being good enough. So there's like... Yeah, this deck's stupid. So Ash Blossom and Joy Spring gets very nice into Bird Cool. That's a fact. It's also like... It's cool into 1-for-1, but it's very good into Bird Cool because your opponent is only really activating Bird Cool when they can't protect with UDF. If their hand is like very weak and they can't get to UDF without resolving Bird Cool. So if they start with Bird Cool, you know that you should probably just Ash it. However, it's very ineffective upside of that. If you Ash Cobalt Sparrow, you die. If you Ash Recital Sterling, you die. But if they go Warbler and a dead Lyrilusc, like such as if they go Warbler summon Sapphire into Recital, Ash does end the turn there. But if they go like Special Cobalt or Celeste, game 2. Next up is Effect Fader. You can use it on Warbler, but that's like, it's only good if they started with Fractal Send Cobalt or Bird Cool Send Cobalt. if they just summon Warbler as their first move and you failure, then they can just normal summon a Lyrilusc, and that still ends on a 4 material Ensemble Blue and a UDF. So, kind of cringe woo. Yeah, so Warbler, like, there's basically any 2 level 1s ends on UDF Ensemble Robin. Just bear that in mind. The fader can hit Tri-Brigade cards, which is like kind of relevant in certain like weird situations. So it says if the hand is like Fractal plus Cobalt, then they may choose to go Fractal for Nerf out, normal summon Kit, banish 2 to summon Ferrojeet, and use the Ferrojeet to summon the Cobalt from hand. But in those scenarios you can failure the Tri-Brigade card, and that's like kind of that's really nice. I'm not gonna sugarcoat. That's really good. But outside of those like situations, it's mostly ineffective. But it does pair nicely with Ash. If you open Fader and Ash, you're in a kind of nice position actually, as you can severely just reduce the end board down. Next up is Imperm. One thing to know about Imperm, it is just ultimately better than Effect Fader and Ash Boss in my opinion against this deck, as Utopia Draco Future has no way to interact with it. And in fact, you can also negate the Utopia Draco Future with Imperm, meaning Imperm pairs really nicely with Nibiru against this deck. But you can play through Utopia Draco Future, you can hold the Impermanence for when they summon the UDF. They do Nerfo, add like Kit, they go Kit to summon the Ferrojeet so that they can summon the Celestine from hand to like do the rest of the combo. If you can hold Imperm for that, and then that's really good because that forces them to just end on UDF unless they open Karass plus tie type, or if they open Bell Canary, which just gets them to Ensemble Robin. So sort of just bear that in mind. You don't necessarily have to Imperm early because you can hold it because Utopia Draco Future doesn't interact with it. And also due to this, it pairs really nicely. Like Fader also pairs really well with Nibiru. Next up, Siphon Gear Gamma. This hand trap is way more effective than the previous ones because it also destroys the monster it negates. So it heavily restricts like what extenders you can use. So it says if they start with Special Summon Warbler and you Gamma Warbler effect, then normal summon at level 1 doesn't extend that combo. Which is really nice. They can still use like Bell Canary, but that's severely like I don't even know like what sort of combo that is from that point if I have to use Bell Canary. Oh, actually no, that's like UDF Ensemble. I lied, but like pretty sure that's UDF Ensemble. Not if you use Warbler already. If you negate Warbler, then I don't think Bell Canary like ends on UDF Ensemble. But I'll get back to you. Never. It denies Sapphire's Follow as an extender because they won't control Winged Beast anymore, meaning that they only really have a Bell Canary or Bird Call with a Lyrilusc name to extend. If they have Bird Call with like Cobalt in hand, then they end on. It's still not amazing. Like, no, it's pretty good actually. They get like never. Yeah, I mean, it's like not amazing, but it's like still they're in a nice position. Next up, Nibiru the Primal Being. If you use it against the standard combo, this would be you use it when they summon the second Recital Sterling. They get to float with Nerf out, add like Kit, and then they can go normal summon Kit, banish 4, summon Shrek, link into Ferrojeet. Shrek adds Ragtail, Ferrojeet summon Ragtail, add Bird Call. Bird Call gets you Bell Canary, you make some more, you end on like Ensemble Robin and Apex Avion. But if they have used a normal summon before they get to the UDF, then Nibiru is a lot more effective. Also, Nibiru is very strong if they had to start their combo with Bell Canary. Next up, draw on Lockbird. It's nice into the deck. Depending on their start, I don't know why this PowerPoint says somewhat strong. It is strong into the deck. It's like that somewhat is. But anyways, if they start with like if they start with like Warbler Cobalt and then Cobalt add and then you draw them after that, they can still end on Double Dragon Lords and Apex Avion. But if they start with like Small World or they use Bird Call to add a monster, then draw is very effective against the deck. And even just like limiting their board to just DDL and Apex Avian is also like not a bad thing. Just bear that in mind. Important to know that even whilst under the effect of draw, once again, just mention that you can activate Bird Call because you can also send to grave. I've caught like 1 or 2 opponents off guard with that. There's something you should know for when you're playing against the deck. Next up, the sort of board breakers, Dark Ruler No More and Forbidden Droplets. They share the same purpose. They're both very effective at breaking the board. However, Tri-Brigade Oath is a printed card. So if they have Oath, they can still they can put. If they have Oath, you're required to open 2 board breakers in order to resolve it. Or you can send a trap card with you can send a trap card with Droplets, which also works. Or if you open both Droplets and Dark Ruler, that beats Oath too. So it's not like completely unbeatable, but it's like Droplet and Dark Ruler is a 14% chance. Trap card with Droplet, you still have to pitch like 4 cards. You have like, if they have UDF and somebody rubbing Avian, you're pitching like 3 cards. So you have like 2 cards left in hand. So you better hope those 2 cards do something. Through presumably like a hand trap or something. And there's also the 33% chance they open Harvey's Featherstorm or Solemn Judgment, which both beats out the Dark Ruler and Droplet. So they have their counterplay. It's like not amazing. I'm gonna be real. It's very cringe, this deck. But I think that's the last. Yes, that's the last slide. So there's final thoughts. There's the outro. As I scroll down to my script. Spoiler alert: I've scripted this. As you can see, this deck is the deck to beat. It's very resilient to hand traps, especially the weaker hand traps. And it's nice into board breakers. It doesn't just shit their pants the moment the opponent drops a Dark Ruler. And it doesn't shit their pants the moment the opponent drops Nibiru. Well, what the fuck are you meant to do to it? Well, there's other cards like Deck Money 1. Deck Money 1 is very effective in the deck, but bear in mind that they can summon a DDL with the Tri-Brigade, so just keep that in mind. Even if you're under Deck Money 1, don't get complacent. They can go summon DDL or summon Shrek to deal with the Deck Money 1. Other good cards into it is like D-Barrier denies a lot of the Etsy's, which really restricts how much they can pop off with the Lyrilusc. There's also like Dimension Shifter. That's a card that you can play if you're playing through on Dries. If you like Dimension Shifter, they might disassembled Path. Bear in mind, if they go Cobalt into Assembled, that's like untargetable, cannot be destroyed. So better hope you have Droplets for that. But I mean, you'll be fine, Copium. But basically, like, I don't want to go like into too much detail because I want this to be like short, snappy. This is like 30 minutes, which is But basically, I just want to show you the sort of basic information you should know when you're playing this deck or you're playing against this deck. So you know, there's cool in that position, but it's just like I feel like this sort of content is like something that's really important for when you're playing against a deck, because the main issue you get is like, what if you play against a deck you don't really know? Then you're just like, I'll just ask the first card that adds, and maybe that'll do something, Copium. And so just like you have to just like ask and pray. Which, if I tell you everything that like how the whole deck functions, maybe you can like be more aware of what you should hand trap, for example. And this isn't going to be a thing I only do for Tri-Brigade Lyrilusc. I'm planning on doing this with other decks such as Phantom Knights. So if you and I'll just cycle through every deck, and the plan is that once I finish all the decks this format, I can just do a new video every time a new deck drops, or if there's like a new development to a deck I've previously done. So if you want sort of more of this content, if you want me to do more videos like these, you should be sure to let me know down in the comments below. This isn't even me trying to farm, like, it is me trying to farm interaction, but also just like, I need to know if people are actually watching these videos. So be sure to leave a comment down below if you actually, if this is actually useful to you. Also be sure to subscribe, because I'm on that grind, and by on that grind I mean I'm sitting around trying to think of throwing darts at the wall and seeing what sticks. You see, my content's such a mess. I don't even know what metaphor I used there. Um, but anyways, I just want to like help people sort of understand decks better so they know how to play against those better.